There's a diner tucked off a forgotten highway, one that's open 25 hours a day. The catch? If you walk in, you may never walk out the same, if at all. Welcome to Eerie's Short and Scary Stories. Tonight, we're diving into a tale of midnight hunger, a strange roadside diner, and a reality that twists far beyond what any traveler expects. I'd been driving for hours. Nothing but trees, darkness, and the occasional green mile marker reminding me just how far I was from anything familiar. The radio had gone quiet 2 towns back, just static now, and my phone had no bars. Typical Massachusetts back roads. They twist like veins through the middle of nowhere, and after a while, it's hard to tell if you're even moving forward or just circling the same stretch of empty asphalt. I was hungry. Stomach growling, vision blurring hungry. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and that was long gone. Every gas station I passed was closed. Every diner sign was dark. My GPS had glitched out after I missed an exit, and since then, I'd been relying on gut instinct and the hope that some kind of civilization still existed on this road. Then, I saw it. Through the haze and the thrum of my headlights, a neon glow rose from the mist. Blue and pink. Buzzing faintly. A sign, mounted slightly crooked on an old pole, Supernova Diner, open 25 hours a day. 25. I blinked, wondering if the fatigue had finally scrambled my brain. I rubbed my eyes. The sign didn't change. Just stood there, humming gently like it had always been there. Open 25 hours a day. I laughed a little, more out of exhaustion than humor, and turned in. Hunger makes you do strange things, and right then, I would have followed a billboard advertising soup from the moon. The parking lot was nearly empty, but there was one car parked near the edge. A dusty old sedan. No movement inside. The diner itself was glowing, perfectly lit, like a postcard from the 1950s. Chrome edges. Checkerboard tile floors. A jukebox by the window playing some song I didn't recognize. The smell hit me before I even got to the door. Bacon, coffee, something sweet, like syrup and warm bread. It wrapped around my senses, dulling my caution. When I stepped inside, the air felt still. Like it had been waiting for me. A man stood behind the counter, polishing a coffee pot that already looked clean enough to sparkle. He looked up as I entered and smiled. His teeth were perfect. Too perfect. His name tag read Hank, and he greeted me like I'd just come back from war. Well, hey there, traveler. Late night, huh? You're just in time, we've still got a booth by the window. His voice was smooth, like radio butter. No accent, no stutter. Just clean, bright hospitality. I nodded, too tired to question anything. Hank led me to a booth lined with red leather cushions that didn't have a single crack in them. The table was spotless. The silverware already set, gleaming in the low amber light overhead. I looked around. No other customers. No waitresses. No clattering from the kitchen. Just Hank and me. He handed me a menu. Try the special, he said with a wink. It's always the right choice. I opened the menu, though I barely looked at it. My eyes felt heavy. The words all blurred together. And then it hit me. This place, it was too perfect. The lights didn't flicker. The booths didn't squeak. The air didn't carry the faint, lived-in smell of grease and coffee grounds. It smelled staged. Like someone had bottled the idea of a diner and sprayed it into the air. I looked back at Hank. He was still smiling. Too wide. Too still. Like someone had painted that expression on and forgotten to give him the ability to blink. And that's when I felt it. That low, creeping buzz in my stomach, not from hunger, but something else. Like I'd walked into a dream that was trying very hard to act like reality, and just barely pulling it off. Something about this place wasn't right. But I was already inside. The door had closed behind me. And Hank was still smiling. It was quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Empty quiet. That kind of stillness that presses into your ears and makes your own breathing feel too loud. The kind of quiet that doesn't belong in a place meant for people. Diners are supposed to be noisy. Clinks of cutlery, someone shouting an order from the kitchen, the low hum of a dozen tired conversations. But this place? Nothing. Just me, Hank, and that jukebox playing a song I didn't recognize, one I couldn't stop hearing even when it ended. I sat there, menu still open, trying to make sense of anything on the page. No prices. No descriptions. Just item names that didn't quite sound real. Twilight toast. Midnight mash. The special. Hank didn't ask what I wanted, he told me. You look like a special kinda guy, he said with a wink. I wasn't in the mood to argue. He disappeared behind the counter, and I swear, I never heard a grill fire up. No plates clattering. No footsteps. Just silence again, until he slid the dish in front of me with a grin that didn't even twitch the skin around his eyes. The plate was beautiful. The food was something else. I can't describe it. Not because it's hard to remember, but because the words don't exist. It tasted like everything I ever wanted to eat as a kid, all at once. Warm, rich, comforting. Every bite made my shoulders drop, my eyelids sink. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. Hunger had become delight, and delight had become something heavier. Halfway through the meal, my vision started to bend. Just slightly. Like the world was being stirred with a slow spoon. The edges of the diner weren't sharp anymore, they wobbled, like reflections on water. I blinked and rubbed my eyes, but it didn't help. I looked up to ask Hank what he put in the food, but he was gone. So was the counter. So was the jukebox. I was alone. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember walking. But at some point, the red leather booth was no longer beneath me, and my feet were no longer touching tile. I remember a hallway, long, glowing faintly, with walls that looked like they were breathing. The light came from nowhere. The air felt thick, like it had been held too long. And then, a room. Not one I asked for. Not one I agreed to. Just a room. Square. Quiet. Windowless. There was a bed in the middle. White sheets. No wrinkles. I wanted to scream, ask someone what was happening, but my voice caught in my throat. I didn't feel afraid exactly, I felt removed. Like someone had taken my fear, labeled it, and put it on a shelf. I sat down on the bed. I don't know why. My legs moved before I could think. The sheets were cold. I remember that. Cold and smooth, like they'd never been used. Then I looked at the walls. They shimmered. Barely. Like heat rising off asphalt in the summer. They weren't painted. They weren't even solid. They pulsed, slow and steady, like the inside of a machine pretending to be a room. And there was no door. I stood up. Turned in circles. Nothing. Just 4 glimmering walls that curved slightly at the top, like I was inside some strange capsule. No switches. No handles. No windows. I pressed my hands against the surface, and it gave, just a little, like skin. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a place to rest. This wasn't kindness. This wasn't about food, or comfort, or some friendly diner open late at night. This was a container. And I was what it held. I woke up to metal. Not the cold, industrial kind you expect in hospitals or factories. This was different. The air didn't smell like disinfectant or grease. It was still. The walls were smooth, dark, and curved slightly inward, like I was inside some polished shell. I tried to sit up, but everything felt heavy. Not just my limbs, my thoughts too. Like something had been poured into my mind overnight and hadn't fully settled. There were no lights, at least not any I could see. Just a low, dull glow coming from thin seams in the ceiling. I don't know how long I sat there, blinking, listening to the silence press in again. Then I heard them. Voices. Soft. Distant. Not speaking to me. Just murmuring. I pressed my ear against the wall. At first, I couldn't tell if I was imagining it. Then, through tiny slits near the floor, vents maybe, I saw eyes. A pair of them, peering back. Hollow. The face behind them was pale, sunken, like it hadn't slept in years. Lips moved, but the words didn't make sense. Something about time. Something about pie. And then, we were just hungry. That's all we were. There were more of them. Faces behind walls. Some cried. Some mumbled to themselves. One laughed, high-pitched and shaky, then stopped as if someone had turned off the sound mid-chuckle. I watched for a while, afraid to speak, afraid that whatever they'd caught had already touched me too. Every few minutes, a new sound stirred. A hum, steady and rhythmic, like some vast engine buried beneath us. It made my bones feel like they were vibrating. Alongside that hum were voices, only these didn't sound like any person I've ever known. They were deeper. Scraped. Slurred. Speaking a language I couldn't place. It wasn't human. I knew that. I backed away from the vent, heart pounding in my ears, and stared at the wall in front of me. That's when I saw him. Hank. Only, it wasn't Hank. He stood behind a pane of glass that hadn't been there before. His face wore the same grin, but it didn't move like skin. It shifted like cloth pulled tight over a frame that didn't quite fit. His neck had lengthened. His shoulders curved in ways that made no sense. I felt my stomach turn. He raised one hand, slow and steady, and placed it flat against the glass. I mirrored the motion, just to feel something real. His fingers were too long. Way too long. I wanted to speak. I wanted to ask him what was happening. But the words clung to the roof of my mouth, thick and dry. Then he spoke. "You're safe now," he said. The voice was Hank's, almost. But it had a second sound behind it. Like something else was speaking at the same time, hiding just beneath the tone. My skin went cold. I stepped back. The glass faded. Vanished. There was nothing behind the wall now, just the hum again, louder this time. The others had gone quiet. No more whispers. No more weeping. Just silence. A heavy, expectant silence. I looked around the cell and realized something simple, something terrifying. This wasn't a mistake. I hadn't stumbled into a diner. This was a trap. A collection chamber. And I was just another piece waiting to be cataloged. It happened all at once, no warning, no build-up, just reality collapsing like someone pulling a curtain down. One moment, I was staring at the smooth wall of my cell. The next, it was gone. Not shattered. Not broken. Gone. Dissolved like smoke in wind, revealing a place that had never been a diner to begin with. Everything I thought I understood snapped in half. There were no floors, no windows, no walls as we know them. Just a vast, metallic skeleton stretching out in every direction, twisting beams, sharp edges, impossible angles that made my eyes blur if I stared too long. The checkerboard tiles, the jukebox, the menus, all of it had been a trick. A costume. They dressed it up to look human, but now I saw what it really was. Cold. Empty. Watching. And I wasn't alone. There were others, just like me, confused, blinking, shaking, trying to make sense of it. Some were weeping. Some were silent. All of us suspended, like insects pinned under glass. I don't know how we were being moved. There were no ropes, no hands. We were simply shifted. Herded through the air like thoughts being guided down a funnel. No effort. No resistance. Just motion. One man, maybe in his 30s, tried to run. He screamed something. I couldn't make it out, but before he got 3 steps in whatever direction he chose, he was gone. Not taken. Not pulled. Erased. Like someone had dragged a finger across a screen and wiped him from existence. 1 second he was screaming. The next, there was just silence. No trace of where he'd been. No echo. That's when people started to break. Some screamed. Some thrashed. One woman collapsed midair and started laughing uncontrollably, as though her mind had given up and found comfort in madness. I couldn't move, not on my own. I felt like a thought being read, a memory being handled by something that didn't need hands. And then, without warning, my head started buzzing. It wasn't noise. It wasn't pain. It was access. Images. My childhood. My first kiss. My dog, Max. The night my mother died. The lie I told my best friend when we were 10. All of it playing out, not in my mind, but outside of me, like projected film stitched together by something studying every frame. I watched memories I'd forgotten. Secrets I didn't even admit to myself. They watched too. Not with eyes, but with attention that felt surgical. And that's when I knew, they weren't curious. They weren't feeding. They were learning. Studying the way we moved. The way we laughed. The way we broke. Somewhere in the distance, I heard voices, human ones at first, distorted as though underwater. Then they changed. The pitch shifted, the tone dropped, until they didn't sound like voices at all. They sounded like machines trying to mimic emotion. Trying to understand us by becoming us. I tried to close my eyes. I tried to shut it out. But the memories kept coming. Every joy. Every mistake. Every lie. I wasn't hiding anything anymore. I was being unwrapped. And as the glowing walls played my life like a slideshow, I realized something terrifying. We weren't guests. We weren't even prisoners. We were content. Curated. Categorized. Studied. For something we would never fully understand. I came to with my forehead resting against the steering wheel. The air was still, and the radio hummed low static like a distant whisper that couldn't decide what it wanted to say. My hands were shaking, but my body felt like it had been placed there, arranged carefully like I was a prop returned to its spot after filming a scene. The keys were still in the ignition. My seatbelt still clicked in place. I wasn't bleeding, bruised, or torn apart. I was just back. Like nothing happened. Except everything had. I looked around. Just a rest stop, gray pavement, empty vending machines, nothing unusual. The sky overhead was the same blank stretch it had been hours ago, or maybe minutes. My phone said 5 had passed. 5. That couldn't be. I checked it again. Then again. It held to that number like it was mocking me. My mouth was dry. My eyes burned. But I wasn't tired anymore. Just hollowed out. I tried to laugh. I did. Told myself I must have dreamed it. That I'd fallen asleep behind the wheel. That the fog and fatigue had strung together a bizarre nightmare stitched from diner memories and bad road coffee. I almost bought it, almost let myself believe. Until I reached for my gloves. The glove box wouldn't shut properly. I nudged it, and that's when I saw it, folded with the care of something ceremonial. A napkin. Red checkered. Crisp corners. Like the ones on the tables at Supernova. Except this one had a dark, sticky smear near the center. Syrup. Or something trying very hard to be syrup. I touched it. My fingers recoiled before my brain even told them to. And then I knew, whatever happened, whatever they did, it wasn't gone. Later, I drove. No destination in mind, just forward. Trees whipped by. Signs blurred. I needed noise, but none of the stations worked. I turned the dial in circles, static to silence, back to static. It felt like I was dragging through air that didn't want to let me leave. That's when I saw it. Just off the highway, half covered by overgrown brush and an old shell of a billboard frame, something new. White paint. Fresh. A new message. Supernova Diner, now serving you again. The words sat crooked, like they'd been pasted by something that didn't fully understand human alignment. And the glow, it was faint, but it was there. That impossible blue. The kind that sits in your teeth even after you stop looking at it. So, here I am, back home. Maybe. I keep the napkin in a sealed bag now. Just to prove I didn't imagine it. Sometimes, I hear things at night. Clicks. Tones. Phrases that don't fit any language I know. And once, I swear, my TV flickered for a second and showed that sign. Only for a moment. Only a flash. But I saw it. They didn't want to be found. They wanted to be remembered. And somewhere out there, just off the next exit, they're waiting again. Still serving. Still watching. I don't remember the drive home. That's the strangest part. You'd think something like that would stick, a sign, a turn, a single landmark to anchor you back to the world. But there's nothing. Just a blank stretch in my memory, like someone hit pause and dragged me forward without explanation. I woke up in my own bed, lights off, shoes still on, and the sour taste of syrup at the back of my throat. I don't know what happened to the others. I wonder if they ever made it out, or if they're still somewhere, suspended in that place, whatever it was. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I think I can almost hear them. Not clearly, just a low sound under the surface. It comes in like a radio trying to catch a signal. And underneath it all is a voice. His voice. Hank. It doesn't matter where I am. I'll be sitting in silence, or lying in the dark, and there it is. Muffled, broken by static, but I know it's him. The same upbeat tone, like he's still offering me the special. As if I'm still sitting in that booth, still chewing, still trapped. They said the diner was open 25 hours a day. At the time, I laughed. I thought it was clever branding, some quirky joke. But now, I don't think it was a joke. I think they meant it. Because I can't tell what hour it is anymore. I keep checking clocks. They say different things. I'll blink and lose minutes. Or gain them. Time doesn't behave around me like it used to. And I swear, I've seen shadows of people I recognize in reflections that shouldn't be there. I think I'm still in that extra hour. And I don't think I'm alone. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Eerie Short and Scary Stories for more chilling tales just like this one. Until next time, stay safe, and stay wary of where you stop for that late-night meal. Who knows what might be waiting for you?